The Chicago Bulls are definitely looking to make changes this offseason, but are they going to make blockbuster changes this offseason? We're going to be talking about 3 hypothetical trades that the Chicago Bulls could possibly make, some which would send Paul George to the Chicago Bulls, DeAndre Ayton, or CJ McCollum. We're going to be talking about if these deals would be the right move for the Chicago Bulls. This is Rico Greenhowe, and I'm your host of Bulls Digest. And before we jump into it, I want to let you know that 76.1% of you guys that watch the videos are not subscribed. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with your latest news and happenings around your Chicago Bulls. And without further ado, let's jump into these 3 hypothetical trades, guys, that the Chicago Bulls could possibly make. So the Bulls make 1 of 3 trades, and it is a question mark. And so this article comes on the heels of, I believe it's called Fadeaway is the article that published this. And so they're going to be talking about 3 different deals that we're making with 3 different teams that could land us some star players. And so I'm going to be breaking these things down one by one, giving you my thoughts, and I'm going to give you a trade that I'm thinking the Chicago Bulls should possibly look at based off what we're seeing here. So let's look at the first trade suggestion here. And so that is the Chicago Bulls will be trading with the Los Angeles Clippers. And so it has us trading Zach Lavine and a 2027 first-round pick for Paul George. All right. And so the reason that we would possibly make this deal is that we're getting a player who can have his versatility show. He's pretty much able to play multiple positions, offering Chicago more flexibility in their lineups. In exchange, the Clippers are getting younger, they're getting explosive, and they're getting the scoring ability from Zach Lavine, and they're also getting a future first-round pick, which would add a strategic asset to them moving forward. And so initially, my thoughts on this is that I don't think that this would be a great trade for the Chicago Bulls. I've talked about this before. I'm trying to keep a straight face on this. But look, Paul George is going to be 34. Zach Lavine is 29. And yes, we have had our issues with Zach Lavine. I get it. But guys, we are going to get the wrong side of the deal in this particular deal. I think that when we get Paul George, initially, you're probably going to get a surge, but the drop-off is certainly coming, and Paul George has not performed at an elite level in the playoffs in quite some time. We are far removed from the Paul George that was just crushing people when he was with the Pacers. And so I think that that Paul George is past, and I just think that this would be an issue for us. And it still doesn't address the fact that we have issues at the center, and we also would need some more depth to the team. We need to add more to bluster up the roster. Like, we need to get some forwards out there or some wings. We need to get some centers. We need to get a bench. And so I just don't think that this would be a great situation for us. And so I'm going to say no to this particular trade. All right. The next trade that is proposed is the Chicago Bulls will make a trade with the Trailblazers. We're going to get DeAndre Ayton. We're also going to get Jeremy Grant. And in exchange, we are sending Patrick Williams. We're sending Vooch over along with Dosunmu and a 2028 first-round pick to the Portland Trailblazers, So, look, in this particular deal, it makes a little bit more sense because we are going to get a big back and we're also going to get a wing. We're also I don't like the fact that we're getting rid of a young piece like Dosunmu. I think that this guy is on the rise. I think that he has the same type of projections as a Jimmy Butler, so I don't know if I feel good in letting that go. And honestly, looking at the trade predictor, you could make this trade without throwing in Dosunmu and without throwing in the trade assets. But, I know hypothetically the Trailblazers are going to want more. They're looking to go a little bit more with the youth movement. So I understand why this particular deal would work for them. You know, for us, I think that we're getting players back that would make an immediate impact. DeAndre Ayton is a guy that is a 16 and 11 guy. You're getting 21 points a game out of Jeremy Grant, and he is a pretty good defender as well, especially when he's in the lineup. So do I think that this would definitely help our winning? Yes, it would. I just wish that we would get some more pieces, and I feel like we give up a little bit more than what I would like, but I like this deal more than I like the Paul George deal. The last deal is us dealing with the New Orleans Pelicans here. And so to bring that up, the Chicago Bulls would make the trade to the Pelicans. And in this deal, we're going to get CJ McCollum. We're also going to get Jose Alvarado and a 2026 first-round pick in exchange for Zach Lavine and then also to Kobe White. The reason we would be doing this deal, according to this article, is that this would address immediate needs of both teams. The Bulls would gain an experienced backcourt players and defensive intensity, while the Pelicans would add scoring talent and youthful potential, positioning their franchise for success in the upcoming season. So, look, that is true. I mean, when you look at the fact that starting with the Pelicans, they would get Lavine and they would get Kobe White, I think that a good point guard like Kobe White would certainly help the Pelicans, especially if they were able to keep Brandon Ingram, which I'm not sure he's necessarily going to be there, but you need a good point guard to help facilitate that offense, and I think that Kobe White would be fine. He is not he's not going to hog up the ball. I think that he will distribute the ball properly when it comes to Zion Williams, and remember, he runs a lot of point forward, so this is going to cause Kobe White to play a little bit more off the ball than he probably played with us, so that could be a little tricky. And then with Zach Lavine, he's going to be able to create shots, but I think the ideal matchup for the Pelicans, or what they're really going to want from their offense, is they're going to want Zach Lavine and they're going to want Zion Williams constantly cutting to the basket for lobs and, you know, going to the layup for dunks and highlight plays like that. I think that that's probably why the Pelicans would want to do this. Now, I love Alvarado. I've watched a lot of his games at Georgia Tech when he was in college. I love the way he competes. I was not shocked that he's a great player that comes off the bench. And for me, he reminds me of like a Patty Mills type of player. He can definitely shoot the ball and stretch the floor. I just think that he needs to probably get some more minutes, and I think you're going to see probably an uptake, I think, in his career stats. Would the Chicago Bulls be a place for him to probably rise? I definitely think so, but I think that this deal is a little bit too rich for my blood. I don't know if I want to go ahead and send out Kobe White for this one. Like, I'm not sure that I want to give up a guy that he just came off, you know, possibly a most improved player, you know, performance where I think he should have won it. But, you know, shout out to Tyrese Maxey, but I'm not sure that I would want to give him up. And then, you know, on top of that, with CJ McCollum, yes, he is a clutch performer. He didn't show very well in this last playoff series, but over time, I think you could argue that CJ McCollum has been excellent with Portland. I think he did everything he could do there. And I think he's also done everything that he could possibly do with the Pelicans. And look, they were injured this year in OKC. They were just on a tear this year. And so I'm not liking that, because I think that we're getting a CJ McCollum that at this point in time, he might be on a decline as well. So I think we're kind of looking at maybe a little bit of a Paul George situation there. And he's not the greatest defender, and he's not the worst defender either. So I'm not necessarily sold on this deal. And so that leads me to the last part of the video, guys. And look, we're throwing out all these hypothetical trades, and there's only one that I liked, and that was the Portland deal. I think that makes a little bit more sense, but I think the Chicago Bulls could move this and possibly get some more assets. So, you know, here's the hypothetical trade that I'm kind of throwing out there, and that is that the Chicago Bulls would get DeAndre Ayton. We would send off Zach Lavine and Vooch over to Portland like they would want. Then we would send Jeremy Grant over to the Pelicans. The Pelicans would send over Brandon Ingram to Memphis. We're sending out Javon Carter, and Zaire Williams would be going to the Pelicans. we also would be receiving Marcus Smart and then Brandon Clark. And so, look, with Ayton, I've talked about the 16 and 11, his post presence, or excuse me, his defensive presence, and he has a little bit of post presence, but he's more of a rim runner. So I like that. I like the fact that we're still in a good position. Hopefully we can retain our 11th pick here this year. We can perhaps get big. I love Edey the more that I listen to him. So I would love to see a roster where we have two bigs kind of beating people up down there in the East. I love that. I think if we get Marcus Smart, now we're in a situation where we could possibly flip him. If we don't, I think that he could possibly move Dosunmu to the bench. And then also, too, this is a little bit of insurance if Lonzo cannot get back to where he was. And so we would have a guy that has been to the NBA Finals and has been a Defensive Player of the Year. So I like what he brings to us with the intensity, and he can knock down three-point shots. So we would need somebody to stretch. I mean, I hate the fact that he's a guard, but I think we could work with that. We also would get a power forward back in Brandon Clark. Here's another guy that is a rim running big. Here's a guy that is accustomed to catching lobs and things like that. And he is an interior presence on the defensive end. So, you know, we're going to be able to bulk up a little bit more on the bench with Brandon Clark. All right, and so with the Trailblazers, they get their shot creator with Zach Lavine. They also get their center with Vooch to go along with their youth movement. I think the Grizzlies, they get a pretty good deal here because they finally get a small forward to go along with Ja Morant, Jared Jackson Jr., and Bane out there. So their starting five is starting to look a little bit better. I think they would still have to go out there and get a center. And then perhaps Javon Carter is a serviceable backup to Ja Morant at this point in time. He's able to come off, give them a little bit of a defensive presence, and hopefully knock down some shots. With the Pelicans, they get a Jeremy Grant. I think he's a bit more consistent at this point in time at the small forward than Brandon Ingram. I think that he would be able to click with Zion Williams out there. And remember, Jeremy Grant was a pretty good player with the Denver Nuggets, and I think he's been a good player with the Portland Trailblazers. He's probably has a lot of empty calories out there with Portland, and you probably don't see him a lot, but this guy still can fill it up, and he does defend with his length and everything like that. So I think he's going to give the Pelicans a little bit of experience here, and then perhaps they can still take it to the next level in the West. And they also get a young small forward slash power forward with Zion Williams, who could possibly go ahead and grow a little bit more with this younger group over there. So guys, let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. Do you guys like any of the trades that the article suggests? Do you guys feel like we're going to get Paul George? Do you feel like it would be best for us to make the deal to get Alvarado and CJ McCollum? Do you think that we do something with the Portland Trailblazers and we do bring over Grant and then Ayton? Or do you like the deal that I last suggested here where we throw in another team, we add some more players, and that's not counting the fact that, you know, perhaps any of those teams throw out some draft capital, or we might have to do something with Patrick Williams, who knows, but that's just a hypothetical thing that I've thrown out there. So let me know in the comments what you guys think. And even though we don't know what the Chicago Bulls are going to do, and we know that they need to do something this offseason, I'm saying go Bulls. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.